So I'm having a little writer's block with this current story that I'm working on. And I thought, hey, I should do a video about writer's block, because what writer has not experienced writer's block? It's very, very common. And I have identified 4 kinds of writer's block that I personally have. So I thought I would do a video about the 4 kinds of writer's block that I experience and how I overcome them. And hopefully this will help you if you are having writer's block. So the first kind of writer's block that I have is probably the one I have the most. And that is that I have not done enough planning. Now, I don't know if this applies if you're a pantser or not, because if you're a pantser, you write in a different way than I do. I have to know where I'm going. I have to plan it out. And so this is the kind of writer's block that I have been having with this story. This is my current project, When the Ice Melts. It's my NaNoWriMo project from 2021. I'm still working on it. And I'm still working on it because I have been stuck on it. I'm just kind of in the muddy middle. And that's kind of the part where I just really need to work on. I guess I just need to work on more of what the characters are actually doing and how they're going to reach their goals at the end of the story. So I just have not done enough planning. I mean, I've done a lot of planning, as you can see. I do have a lot of sticky notes here, but I just haven't done enough. Like, I'm stuck. So when you have this kind of writer's block, how do you get out of it? Well, there are no shortage of ideas, right? There are so many different ideas. You just have to sometimes brainstorm. You just have to sit down. You have to think about your story and think about what direction it can go next. So I think what I am going to do for this story is I'm going to introduce a new character, because I think it needs a little bit more conflict. So I'm going to introduce a new character, and she's going to stir up some trouble, and I think that's going to help me get unstuck a little bit. That's going to help some of these scenes move forward so I can get to the end. I'm currently at 70,000 words with this story. It's kind of been slow going because it seems like the more words I add, the more words I delete, so it's like I don't get anywhere. But some of those words were like bad NaNoWriMo words. And some of those words were part of scenes that I deleted. So the story has gone through some changes. But yeah, that's the kind of writer's block that I experienced the most. I just haven't done enough planning. So I just need to sit down. I need to think about the story. I need to think about where I'm going. And so hopefully introducing that new character will help me get unstuck. Okay, the next kind of writer's block that I have is something is wrong. Now, this kind of writer's block is a little bit more trickier because the answer to the question, what is wrong, is, well, it could be so many different possibilities. Your character could be acting out of character. There is some kind of inconsistency with the story. There's something wrong with the plot line. Something needs to change about it. Maybe the point of view, maybe the scene needs to be from a different point of view. Maybe you need to add more conflict, or maybe there's just something wrong. Or maybe there's just a scene that you're working on that is just going nowhere and you just need to delete it. Like, you just need to start somewhere else. Like, it just could be so many different things. So that's the kind of writer's block that's a little bit harder, because you really just have to sit down and you have to think about it, you know, what is wrong with the story. You kind of have to take off your writer's hat and just kind of look at your story like as a reader would, and just try to be a little bit detached from it so you can figure out what the problems are. And sometimes what you might need to do is you might just need to get somebody else's opinion on it. Maybe a beta reader or a critique partner, or, you know, just bounce ideas off someone like, hey, what do you think about this? Those are some of the ways that you can get over that kind of writer's block. But yeah, it is kind of hard because there could be so many things like that are wrong with it. I know that I have written stories where there will be a scene I'm working on, right? There will be a scene I'm working on, and just like something is just wrong about the scene. Like I'm just having a hard time writing it. And usually when that happens, it's because my character is kind of acting a little out of character, or there's just like some little inconsistency wrong with it. Like just some little minor thing, just something that doesn't really make sense. I know that I also definitely had that kind of writer's block when I was working on the Rachel and Chase story. I made a major plot change to it because I started off the story at one point And then I realized, no, we need to start it here. I really do think that's the direction I need to go into. So that was kind of part of the writer's block that I was having with that story. So yeah, you just have to sit down and just think about what is wrong with the story, and hopefully you can figure it out, and that'll help you get unstuck, right? Now, the next kind of writer's block that I have is, I don't know if you can call it writer's block, but this is what I call it. I call it burnout. Sometimes you are burned out on a story. Now, there's two kinds of burnout. Now, you could be burned out from writing completely, like you cannot write anything else, you just need to take a break. Or you could just be burned out from just one particular story. And that's the kind of writer's block I'm talking about. Because sometimes when you have worked on a story for so long, day in, day out, you see it every single day, sometimes you just get so frustrated with it. Sometimes you need a break. Like, this happens to me a lot after NaNoWriMo, after I have been working on that story every day for 30 days in a row. Come December, I'm ready to take a break from it, right? Like, I am just like so over the story. I just need a break from it. That's the kind of burnout I'm talking about. So I think what you're going to have to do in that situation is you really are going to have to step away from your story, okay? Because if you are burned out on the story, if you're not having a good time writing it, that is not the kind of mood that you need to be in, okay? Because if you're bored with the story, your reader's going to be bored with it too. So when that happens, just take a break, step away from it, right? And what I like to do is I like to work on something else. So I have all these other stories that I am working on. They're all in various stages of completion. And usually what I will do is when I'm burned out on writing a story, I switch to editing mode and I pick up a story and I work on my editing, because usually what it is that I've got like a story that I'm mostly drafting and I have a story that I'm mostly editing. So I will take a break from the drafting and then I'll focus on some editing, right? Or if there's not a story that I'm currently editing, I might revisit one of my old whips, right? Because sometimes you just need a break from story A and you just want to work on story B for a while. And I think that when you step away from a story, you kind of can come back to it later with fresh eyes, right? So what always happens to me is when I get tired of writing a story and I step away from it, I take a break, I sometimes worry, you know, am I ever going to feel like writing that story again? And I do. I always do. I always come back to that story. Even if I'm burned out on it, I always come back to that story. And so you will. So just take a break from it, come back to it, and you will just see it with new eyes, right? And I really think having some distance away from your story is really good. What I even like to do is I like to, when I finish a first draft, I like to take several months away and not look at it again. So when I'm ready to read it again, it is just like brand new. Like, oh yeah, like I forgot I wrote that awesome line, or, you know, oh, that's a really good scene, or oh yeah, I really like that, you know. Or it can go the other way, you know, you can be like, oh yeah, I don't think that's going to work out, you know, I need to change that. So definitely take a break from the story if you feel you need it, because you don't want to try to write when you're burned out. You don't want to try to force yourself to write. And I know that as writers, sometimes we feel like we need to be writing every single day, but I don't believe that. Like, I really don't. I don't think you need to write every single day. If you're just not passionate about the project, you need to move on and you need to find something else that you're passionate about. But yeah, definitely take a break if you need it. It's okay. The story will be waiting for you when your muse returns. And my muse, she goes on vacation a lot, but she always comes back. So don't worry, you will be able to write again. I promise. Now, the last kind of writer's block that I have had in the past is very difficult. And there really isn't anything that you can do about this except take a break. Unless, and there is an exception to this, but I'll explain it to you and you can understand what I'm talking about. Sometimes when I am under extreme stress, okay, you know, like if I'm feeling kind of depressed, or if I'm, you know, just something really bad is happening in my life, you know, the pandemic, for instance, that is totally, you know, just made everything bad, right? So, you know, a lot of times when I am experiencing a lot of stress, I can't write, you know? I just cannot write. And, you know, this happened to me back in April of 2020, and I just was having such a hard time writing. But in 2020 in general, like towards the end of 2020, I was back, but in mid 2020, it was hard to write. It was really, really hard to write, and I was stressed out a lot. And I know you probably can relate to that because this has been a really hard couple of years. But when you're having this kind of writer's block, you know, you probably just need to take a break, you know. Just take a break, and, you know, eventually when you're feeling less stressed out, you'll be able to write again. Now, I say there's an exception to this because there are some people who are different. Like, writing is their, I don't know, their therapy, right? Like, writing helps them. They love to get into their story world and just get lost in the world, and they can block out everything. And if you're that kind of writer, awesome. But I am not that kind of writer. I cannot block out what's going on in the world. I mean, sometimes I can block out. But if I am under extreme stress personally, it is much harder. And when that happens, you just need to take a break. You need a mental health day, right? You need a mental health break. You just need to take a break and just like do something else. Like go outside and like take a walk, or, you know, go to the park, or, you know, go do something fun. And a lot of times what happens is that you just need to refill your creative well, right? So you'll refill your creative well, and then you'll kind of get the writing bug again, and then you'll be able to write. But sometimes you just need to step away from it, and then you'll be able to get back to it. So there you have it. Those are the kinds of writer's block that I have. And I don't know if there are any other kinds of writer's block. Maybe there are. So if there's a kind of writer's block that you think you have that doesn't really cover any of these 4 topics that I mentioned, leave me a comment. Let me know what it is. I think it's very common to have writer's block. And I think if you know why you can't write, that kind of helps you find the solution to how can you write. But yeah, writer's block is no fun, but you'll get through it. Every writer experiences it. Some people call it blank page syndrome. I just call it writer's block. Some people say writer's block doesn't exist. I don't know who those writers are. But if you are a writer and you just are sitting down and you want to write, but you just can't, you're having writer's block. And if you have any other tips on how you can beat writer's block, also leave a comment below and let me know how you get through it. Alright, that's going to do it for me. I'll see y'all next time. Bye!